Okay, for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Farris, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, actually, the slides are acting really weird. Do you see somebody hanging from the cliff up there with the title slide up there? Anybody see that? All right,
Yes.
cool. All right, good. All right. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Farris, and welcome to It's Go Time. Before we get going, I'm going to ask everybody to stay off of this stage area here. This way, nobody blocks the display, with this huge crowd in here. Or we can, also gives me a little room to move around and do the whole hosting thing, right? Now, if I could direct your attention to the menu wheel in your lower left, you see the microphone icon at the top. When that's clear, we can hear what's happening in your environment. And normally at this point, we turn that to red, which basically means you're muted. And with a small group like this, we don't keep it muted. So if you want to say something, just, come up and say it. And if more people pile in, that will turn to red. But, so if when it is red, that means you're muted. So if somebody comes in your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? You'll be able to answer them. Or if maybe you have a barking dog or something like that, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time, right? Now, just because you're muted doesn't mean you can't express yourself. You have this pink cheek smiley face in your menu wheel there. That's your emoji panel, and it offers you a wide variety of options which to express yourself during those periods where you are muted in Altspace. Notice, like, for example, if I share something really deep and meaningful up here, really powerful, you can just, let it out, just let it flow through smart stuff like that. You can, if when maybe I got some backup dancers backstage and they come out with breaking It's Go Time the musical and you're all really impressed, you throw up the applause like that, right? And I ask you guys a yes or no question. You can say yes by smiling. You can say no by frowning. If I say or do something funny, you can show me the silly face emoji to indicate that you're laughing, right? And then there is this, right? Now, this isn't how you ask a question. This is how you let me know that there's a problem. If, for example, like, maybe I'm waving my hands around and it looks like I'm talking, but you don't ask to hear any sound coming out like that. That's a good time to use that. It lets me know. If I see one go up, I'm going to keep on going. But if I see 5 of them, I know that there's a problem with maybe the display behind me bursts into flames. That's been known to happen. Or moderators can get a little carried away with the special effects sometimes. And, been known to try to burn down the event while it's in progress. It does happen. You can also press this X in the middle of the emoji panel, and this will close the panel. But it's a good idea to keep it open during events like this. It lets me know how I'm doing, and also it is good to let the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if the person next to you starts going like this, that means they find something happening to be funny, and you may not agree. You might be like, well, I don't agree with that at all. I'm going to go stand over here, and you can do that. This is VR. Hey, Hummingbird, thanks for joining us. All right, so now what else do we have here? Now, this event is for Oculus Go users, but if you're on the device, feel free to hang out because you may pick up some useful tips that'll help the large community of Go users that are in Altspace. We have new Go users coming in all the time. But being on the go in Altspace, it has its challenges. And it really does. And speaking of challenges, I've been in bed for about the past couple of years due to medical condition. It's getting a lot better. But when my Go first arrived, I couldn't wait to get this thing on. You guys remember that feeling when you first put on your VR headset for the very first time? That feeling of being taken away to another world, right? I couldn't wait for that. And I've been reading about Altspace for a while, so I couldn't wait to get in here. This was my first stop. And when I first came out of the load screen for the very first time, the first thing I did was I looked up, right? I didn't see these wood beams like there is here today. I saw the sky, and the sky looked a lot like what I remember the real world sky looking like. And I was really grateful for this. I was so grateful that I started volunteering for Altspace right away. So that very first day that I was in Altspace, I started moderating events. And when I did, I found that before the event was over, my device would run out of power. And then I'd have to charge up, I'd have to come back in Altspace, and I'd have to try to find the event host again and explain why I flaked out. And I got off to kind of a rocky start, right? But I started asking questions. I started asking questions about how can I improve my performance, and I started gathering information about how to make these devices perform better. And the stuff I learned led to this event, sharing the stuff that I learned. But when I first started asking questions, I started hearing things, right? Like I heard that, this laser pointer, I was told on Oculus Go I wouldn't be able to work this. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. I was also told that these slides here, right? I was told that I wouldn't be able to work these slides and on an Oculus Go, and that turned out to not be true. I was also told that despite having a background presenting material like this in the real world, that I wouldn't be able to host events because my device wasn't reliable enough. And you know what? That also turned out to not be true. On an Oculus Go for many, many months, I ran events successfully without any issues at all, right? And you can too. Now, there's two routes that you can take to improve the performance of the device. You can start with the device you already have on your head, right? Or you can, you can upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And I say it that way. Those of you that have been here before know I can't stand that term, right? There's also other ones that float around. They say like weaker device, inferior device. It's not true. The Oculus Go is a really great way to start out in VR. You don't have to worry about the vertical height, and it's a great way to like get in dizziness in VR. It's a way to go past that. I'm on a Quest now, but if I had first started out on a Quest, I don't think I would have stayed. All right, you don't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers. It really allows you to adapt to VR at your own pace. It's a terrific device, and I feel about the Go the way most people feel about their first car, right? And but when you hear this kind of terms, right, it's important to keep in mind there's another term that they throw around Altspace an awful lot, and that's communities. There's a lot of different communities in Altspace that and you're the important part of that equation. Ooh, Portal, where are we going? A murder mystery rehearsal. Oh, wow. Need practice. Okay, well, he's going to go learn how to do the murder. It'll be a mystery. All right. But yeah, when you hear these terms being thrown around, you have to remember that, you're the part that makes up these communities, right? And you're not your device any more than your house or your car or anything like that. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. All right. Now, so starting with the device you already have on your head, you may not know this, but your device loses power even when it's not in use. So if you leave your device on a table, at night when you finish your round, and let's say it's got 100% battery power, during the night it's going to be checking for app updates, it's going to be checking for firmware updates, it's going to be checking for all these things, and it's going to actually lose power. So you're going to find it has a lower percentage. And when you first come in Altspace, if you come in with like say 20% battery power, you're going to notice that your screen is going to flicker and things like that. And to increase the performance, you want to make sure that your battery is as close to 100% as possible. So if you look at you go to altvr.com and you look at the event schedule, you see what's coming up, and you notice that Go Time's coming up tonight, and you've heard good things about the host. You've heard he's got this hair, he's got this shirt, you're starting to see everywhere, and you want to give it a try, right? So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you charge up your device about an hour before you come in, and in this way you'll make sure that you have 100% battery power when you arrive. And you put your headset on your head, and the very first thing you should do, and make this a habit, every single time you put on your headset, the very first thing you want to do is you want to clear out the memory. And the way you do this is you press down on that center button at the top, the power button that you press to turn it on, press and hold this, and hold it for about 3 or 4 seconds, and you're going to notice these 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you. The middle button will be the restart button, and when you press that restart button, it's going to clear out all the temporary files that your device has accumulated. Maybe it's doing all these app updates, it's doing firmware updates. Maybe your headset has like a, pen pal on the other side of the world. Maybe your headset has a whole secret life you didn't know anything about. When you restart it like that, it'll clear all of that out, and you'll come in, Altspace, and you step into that load screen, and when you first, when you step out of that load screen, you're going to notice in Altspace, body language plays a really important role in here. There's a lot of communication that takes place without anybody speaking at all. Aside from the emojis. I mean, if you're at an event like this and a moderator comes up to you and they're shaking their head slowly back and forth like that, right? That means don't do that thing. Or maybe I'm going like this and I'm waving my hand like this, and that means get off my stage, right? Without me actually having to say it. Now, occasionally you're going to notice from time to time in Altspace, your hand may be like your real world hand might be right here, but your avatar's hand might be way up here. And when it doesn't match like that, you may, give conflicting information to people. Like, for example, if I'm waving my hand like this to get off the stage, and my arm, it doesn't match up like that. When I wave my hand like this, you may see my avatar's hand going like this, and it looks like I'm saying, "Hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time." And I'm not saying that. I'm saying, get off my stage. It's a very dangerous place. Anything can happen, right? And the way you can fix this if this happens to you, right, is you're going to notice on your trackpad, on your control, you have a trackpad, and below that you have 2 buttons. The very bottom button, don't press it now. You're going to think of that as like your eject button, right? If you press that once, you can take it out of Altspace to the Oculus main menu, and you'll have a choice to quit or resume. That resume button is really handy in case like you press that button by accident. Like if you're dancing around at the Universe and all of a sudden you press that button, right? You can just press resume and you'll find you're back in Altspace you've never left, right? But this bottom button does something else too. If you can try now. If you look straight ahead and you hold your hand at your side, like right here, bend your elbow and look straight ahead like that and press and hold that button for about 4 seconds, right? You're going to find that a white circle spins in the air, and then your avatar is going to snap into place, all right? And then take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? Now, if it is, then you're good, right? If it's not, try it again until it feels comfortable for you. Only you can determine what's comfortable for you, and it may take you a couple of tries to get it to be the way you want it to be, all right? But you take a good look at your hand, when you feel that's comfortable and it's about where your hand is in the real world, then you're good. All right, now, let's see. Now, Another thing that can happen in Altspace is you'll notice those circles on your lower left, that menu wheel there. Occasionally that's going to move around in Altspace. And sometimes it can move into places that's hard to reach, like if it moves behind you, or maybe it moves right in front of you and it makes you feel a little bit off balance, and that's not comfortable, right? Well, it turns out you can reset the position of this by using another handy feature on your controller. And right below the trackpad, you're going to find that there's a button right in the middle between the bottom button and the trackpad. Right in the middle there's a button. And when you press on that, one time your main menu is going to open up in front of you. And that's pretty useful. That means you don't have to press that boom white triangle at all. That means your menu's in your hands at all times, right? And if you press it again, the menu will close. But if you're looking straight ahead when you open and close your menu by pressing this button, you're going to notice that your menu wheel or your collection of circles there on your lower left is going to go right back to where it's supposed to be. All right, so you're going to find it goes like right back to that main position if it moves around and drifts at all. All right, now another thing that when I first started out and I was having that battery issue, one of the best pieces of advice I got is somebody told me to turn down my brightness. And I didn't want to do it at first because I wanted to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up, like retina burning levels. I mean, it was painful, but my graphics were awesome. Or so I thought, right? I figured I'd give this a try because I got tired of running out of power. And what I did was on the Oculus main menu on that home screen, you first put the headset on the right-hand side where it says settings. When you press on that in the middle, it's going to be an area that says brightness. And when you press on brightness, you can turn the auto brightness off so that you can adjust it manually, and there'll be this blue bar there, right? And every time I came into Altspace, I turned down that brightness a little bit more, and then a little bit more, until finally I came into Altspace with the brightness completely off, and I couldn't believe what I saw. I came into the event space where you'd come in early and you'd hang out with the moderators before the event started, and there was this tree off to the side where I learned how to moderate. And as I'm walking up to join the others, I looked up at that tree and I couldn't believe what I saw. It looked more real than anything I've seen in Altspace before. And I'd seen that tree hundreds of times before that, but it never looked more real than it did in that moment. And so if you turn your brightness all the way off, not only are you going to enjoy better graphics, your device is going to experience better performance, but most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. And at about that time, I learned that that basically people hang out after events, and I want to do that too. So I started hanging out after events, and now it's lasting longer. And at this time, I became aware of another problem that the Go users experience, and the Go users get a bad reputation for this. Like when you first join Altspace and you come into the campfire and you're walking up to a group of avatars, and they're standing there talking, and you haven't said a word, right? And all of a sudden they turn, right, and they face you and they come at you and they go, "Are you on a go? Are you on a go?" Right, like that, right? That can feel pretty off-putting when that happens. But what they're experiencing is pretty off-putting too. They're standing here, they're talking to friends, like I'm talking to DJ Fresh here, right? And we're hanging out, and I'm talking to Carrie here, and we're having a good time. And I'm like, "Hey, did you hear that thing that happened about that other thing that time? It was really weird, right?" And then all of a sudden, I hear a voice, and I turn and I look to see where the voice is coming from, and I see an avatar walking up, and my voice is coming out of that avatar. And the reason this happens is because the microphone in the Oculus Go is incredibly sensitive. It's very powerful. And as the sound comes out of your ear straps here, right, from the headset itself, it gets picked up by the microphone and it gets projected out into Altspace, right? And you don't hear any of this because we don't know what we sound like in Altspace. As a matter of fact, I didn't know what I sounded like in Altspace until a couple of months ago when we got our YouTube channel and I heard my voice in Altspace for the first time, right? You'll notice that Raven Eye is floating up there. That's our YouTube channel. If you want to wave out to YouTube, you can just turn around and start waving and be like, "Hey, YouTube, how's it going? How you doing?" We got Think Out, we got Lojo, we got AE, we got Dorian helping us out here. We got Hummingbird right there. Everybody just waves, "Hey, YouTube, how's it going? Coming to Altspace. We're having a good time in here." All right? Yeah, see you soon. All right. So, you don't know what you sound like in Altspace. And so this can happen. But one way to fix this, you're going to notice on your headset on the left side of the top, there's two buttons. The leftmost button is the volume down button, and just next to that, it's the volume up button. Right? And when you press either of these buttons, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air. Some will be solid, and some will be clear. The clear one, what you're going for is 4 clear bars away from the maximum. This means you're basically 4 ticks away from the top volume, right? And this comes at a trade-off. Now, when you do this, you're going to find people start being nice to you right away because they're not going to hear their voice coming back. But you may occasionally have to strain to hear people. And when this happens, remember, you still have one good hand in the real world. And what you can do is you can hold your hand up and cup your hand to your ear like that. And try this now. Take your left hand and hold it up to your ear like that. And when you do that, you're going to find that my voice gets louder. It's a way to temporarily increase the sound without projecting that sound into Altspace. One easy solution for this is to, get a pair of headphones and attach them to your device. That can help. Another thing you can do is a pair of inexpensive earbuds. In my case, my wife, she went to the library, she got an audiobook, and they gave her a free pair of earbuds, and she came home to show me. She said, "Look what I got for free." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." And then sadly, they disappeared, right? And but good news, they appeared a short time later, attached to my headset, and they remain there to this day. She said I stole it. Me, I said I acquired it creatively, right, and to solve a problem, right? And this got me thinking, what else can I add to the device, right, that was going to make it perform better, right? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. And I call it this because I would go into heavy performance spaces, and other avatars would, the Go users would disappear into the ground. Their avatars would vanish as their devices would crash. And, I would still remain. And yeah, it would get a little choppy sometimes, but my device started performing very reliably, right? And so, and yours can too. All you have to do is make a few small changes to your device. And I'm going to go over what those are. But to do that, I'm going to have to discuss these products up here. And I like to tell everyone, these are not the only products that work, right? These are just the products that I myself used and had direct experience with, right? Yeah, well, it looks like everyone's coming in now. Okay. All right. Well, I tried these products and they really changed my experience in Altspace, and they can change yours too, right? Now, but again, these are not the only products that work. It's the ideas behind them that work. So if you want to, try like a different brand or a different color or something like that, feel free to, and come back and tell us about it. I love hearing about, how people use different approaches to solve these problems, right? And then the temptation might be to write these products down. You don't need to do that. We've made them super easy to find. If you go to altvr.com, you're going to notice in the upper left where it says channels. If you press on that, you're going to see all these Altspace event channels. And among them down toward the bottom, you're going to see Ravenhall events, like it says in the sound booth up there. And when you press on that, you get taken to our event page. And on the left-hand side, you can see all these products listed there if you want to try any of them out. You're also going to see the Join Discord button if you want to, hang out with us, or you need to get in contact with us, you want to ask questions. It's a great way to reach us. You'll also see the subscribe button, and when you press on that, right, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content. We don't get paid to do this, so it's a nice way to say thank you. We always feel good when that number goes up. So by all means, press the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. All right, now what these products are is you have the Anker Power Core battery pack at the top there. And this was, I figured, would solve my power issue, right? I would stop running out of power because Oculus says not to use the devices while they're plugged in, right? So I got this battery pack. I figured this would solve it. This one's supposed to last for 16 hours. So I didn't think I'd ever need to be in VR for that long. I like food, I like sleep. I've heard good things about water too. And I try that out. And around the time that I got it, I also heard about people were starting to have a problem charging their devices. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this. When you plug in your device, you know how tight that port is? I figured all that wear and tear would eventually loosen the connections, and without making proper contact, it wouldn't charge as effectively. So I got this MagSafe cable, and what this does is one tip plugs into the device, while the other tip, the USB part, plugs into the battery, and it's held in place by a magnetic connector. This is also a cool safety feature. Like when you turn your head, you're going to notice that the wire pops off. And when that wire pops off, you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You just pick it up and hold it like next to your headset, and it'll kind of thunk into place. And when it does, it'll make a sound. If your microphone is open, people are going to hear it, and you're going to be like, "What was that?" And you're going to be like, "That was power. That's what that was." You don't have to do it. It's not going to make it work any differently. I just thought it was fun to do it like that. Let's do that whole bit. But yeah, and this solved. When I got this, it solved my power issue. But then I had a new problem. I started overheating all the time. Anybody else experience that where you're overheating a lot, right? And this is because the faceplate on the Oculus Go, it's supposed to cool it, but it's installed by hand. And because of that, everybody experiences different things with it. Like some people overheat every half hour. I knew a guy that overheated every 2 minutes. The first go time we ever had when we opened up at the end for questions, the first question we had was about this. And somebody's, the headset basically got so hot, the side of it got pushed in, like it got all deformed from the heat. And this made me nervous. I knew this was something we had to take care of. Now, around that time, I'd heard some people were using ice packs to put on their headsets. I don't recommend doing this because when you put an ice pack on your headset, create condensation, and you got water and electricity on your face, right? Probably not the safest thing in the world to do. And the people I know that tried this, they went through more than one device, right? So I don't recommend doing it. But what we did come up with was this AC Infinity mini fan here on the bottom. And it's the USB, so it plugs into that battery pack there. And the silver part has the face-to-face plate, and you got to figure out a way to attach it. Some people use string. Me, I acquired creatively some hair bands from my wife, and we, put them on the side head straps there, and cross them over the front, and kind of make an X with it, and it wraps around the rubber feet on the fan. And when I came in to test it, I went to Altspace. They have the meditation event, and that's held at a really nice space. It's on top of a mountain. They got these bowls with smoke coming out, and they got sunlight coming down from the fogs. It's a great space. And when I went there, but whenever I would moderate for that event, I would always overheat 20 minutes into the experience, like every time. And it was always 20 minutes exactly. And I figured this would be a great place to test it. So the first time I got the fan, I came into Allspace and I had all these wires coming down from my headset. I mean, while all this stuff works, you do have to get used to it. I felt like kind of like, if you've ever seen Star Trek, you get the Borg. I kind of felt like that, right? And so I came into Allspace with this, and I go up to the host, Jeremy. He's a really nice guy, and I said, "Can you hear my fan?" And he says, "Not at all." He couldn't hear it at all. So I turned it up to medium. I said, "How about now?" He says, "I can hear it a little bit. It's not that bad though." And I said, "Okay." So I turned it up to full blast, the highest setting. And he said, "I could definitely hear that. You sound like you're in a wind tunnel." And I'm like, "Okay." So I turned it all the way down, right? And I figured I'd test it out and see how far it can go. Spoiler alert, I never had to raise it up again. What happened was I went through the entire event. I didn't overheat once. And I want to see, how far can I take this thing? So I went to another event and I didn't overheat at all, right? And it was great. So I went to another event. That's 3 events in a row and I didn't overheat once. Then I went back to my home space. I was hanging out with my friends and then it happened. For the very first time, I left Altspace, not because, my battery ran out, not because I heated it all. I left by choice, right? I didn't leave because I was forced to. I left because I actually wanted to. And it was the first time since I've been in Altspace that happened. But it wouldn't be the last time. After that, I became super active. I started hosting events, started moderating events, and you can too. All you have to do is make a few small changes to your device, and none of this stuff is very expensive. This mini fan on the bottom, this is about $10 or $11 US. This MagSafe cable is about $7 US. And the most expensive thing up here is the battery pack. That's about $50 or $60 US, but they come in different sizes, different capacities, and different colors. You may find that you're only in VR for a couple hours a night, so you can probably get away with a much smaller capacity battery. But if you're looking to be here all the time and become Altspace famous and host like 20 events a week, right? Then you might need it to go a little bit longer. You're going to want to try a bigger battery. All right. Now, this actually made my device perform very reliably, but there were still some problems. All right. And these are more of annoyances than problems, and they can be managed. All right. The first one I'm going to talk about is let's say I'm in a campfire, I'm hanging out, and I go to turn left to say something to Dorian here. All right. But instead of turning left, I go straight. And I think, well, that was weird, right? That's very strange. And I go to turn, to my right to tell Hummingbird about it, but instead of turning right, I go straight again. And I'm like, this is really strange. So I press down on my controller, right, to try to move backwards, to back up a little bit. But instead of, going backwards, I go straight again. And I start to panic and I start pressing on all the buttons on my controller. No matter what I do, I just keep moving straight. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. All right? There's nothing more frightening than standing inside one of those campfire admins. I saw things when I was in there, and I saw things that keep me up at night, things I can't talk about. But what I can talk about is how do you fix this problem if it happens to you? What you want to do is you're going to notice on your trackpad, right? Now your trackpad, it's touch sensitive. It's sensitive to touch, to heat, to moisture, right? And what you can do is you take your thumb and you slide it across the trackpad very gently. Don't push down on it. Just as gently as you can, swipe it across the trackpad from left to right, right to left, it doesn't matter. And then pick your thumb up off the trackpad and cross it to the other side without touching it. Come down and swipe it across again. So if I go to turn left and I go straight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go swipe, 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 and then I'm going to turn the direction that I want to move, and it's going to clear that up if that happens to you. Another thing that can happen is occasionally and this is going to happen when you're in a rush. Like let's say you're hosting an event or you're moderating an event, right? And maybe you have a hot date. I heard that can happen in here, right? You go to come into Altspace, but as soon as you put your headset on, you've got this message, can't find controller. And you put a fresh battery in that controller last night, right? So, and that could happen. If you need to replace your battery in your controller, it won't be able to see it, right? But as soon as you put a fresh battery in there, and it's got that message, can't find controller. Maybe your controller found out about your headset's secret life, and it's not happy about it, right? But either way, they're not talking anymore, right? So what do? You don't even have to take your headset off to fix this. You just have to remember 2 words, double down. And what I mean by this is if you press and hold the 2 buttons below your trackpad and you hold that down for about 4 seconds, a little white light's going to appear on the trackpad, right? Now, if you got your headset on, you're not going to see this. But what you are going to see as soon as you lift your thumb back up is you're going to have your hand back. And you're going to get in that load screen and you're going to be like, man, I am glad I went to go time, right? And then Michael Farsi knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down. Now I get to be on time for my event. If that happens to you guys, well, you're welcome. All right, let's see. What's going on with your hands, Dorian? Look at this girl out there. Looks far away. I don't think he's here. Whoa. Look at that. Anybody else seeing that? Like way away from your body. Anybody else seeing like his hands like way out far? Is that just me? That's really wild. When he fell into the ground. Oh no. All right, well, I have a problem with our moderators. What's going on with that? All right, so another thing that can happen is occasionally you're going to notice your headset goes dark. And this happens because, listen, everything that's in this room right now, right? You've got, the stage, you got these posters up here, all the avatars, you got this rug, right? You got this big shiny red button here that we're going to press at the end. We got a cool effect when we press that. You guys are going to see that in just a minute. But all this stuff, it stays in your headset. and eventually your memory is going to run out, right? And as soon as your memory runs out, the screen is going to go dark, right? Now, Altspace has done a lot of things to increase performance in Altspace, so this happens less. But if you're doing like a lot of world hopping, this can happen. And one of the best ways to manage this is by getting ahead of it before it happens. So, like, if at the end of the event you turn to your friend and said, "What you think?" and you're like, "Oh man, that was awesome," and your friend's like, "Okay, it wasn't that bad. All right, come on, right?" And you want to do now, and you say, "Well, let's go to the campfire," right? Well, before you go to the campfire, all you have to do is say, "Okay, I'll see you there in just a minute," and then all you have to do is press that bottom eject button on your controller, right? Press quit, and then restart the app, and that's going to clear out your memory. All right. So if you've just been to a couple of worlds, and before you go to the next one, you might want to do is just restart the app, and this will make it so that this isn't happening to you in the middle of a conversation. It's a way of getting ahead of it before it happens. Okay, let's see. Now I'm a little bit over on time here. I usually give out world building tips, but I'll leave it up to you. Can we go right to the questions now, or do you want these world building tips? If you do, raise your hand up or show me some hearts or give me some indication you want to see the world building tips. We'll go over that. You got a hand up? All right, so that's one for world building tips. Let's see, anybody else want those? Want me to go over those? All right, that's 2. All right, that's good enough. Okay, cool. All right, so real quick, this is what you have. Now, I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds at Altspace, and whenever I was there, I would hear people say that, that they couldn't build worlds on an Oculus Go, and this isn't true. The Oculus Go is capable of remarkable precision. All right, at the end of our events, we take everybody flying at the Ravenhall Flight Academy. And even if you know how to fly, you should come check it out, because if you look around there, you keep in mind that that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. All right, so you can build worlds. There's a lot of really successful world builders who build worlds on Go's. And why do people get this impression they can't build worlds on Go? Where did they get that impression from? Right? Well, they get this impression because, like, when you work with the world editor, as soon as you grab an object, like I'm going to grab this laser tool here, right? And what can happen is when you go to select that object, what will happen is you'll notice it starts spinning around all wildly, and it takes you a while to realize that it's actually your head that's controlling the movement, right? And that can be hard to do. It's hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one, right? So what you can do is you'll notice in the world editor, there is an option to lock rotation. And if you check that, that's like your best friend. When you check on that, now all you do, if you squeeze and release the trigger one time, like you squeeze and release the trigger quickly, right? Now you can adjust the rotation by moving your hand around. And as soon as you squeeze and release the trigger again, it's going to lock it into place and then look at the object and go, well, that's about level, right? And now what you can do is you can press and hold your trigger, and now you can move the object up, down, left, and right, or you can like swipe on the trackpad there, right, left or right, and it's going to change the size of the scale of the object, or you can move up and down a trackpad, or forward and back, and it's going to move the object further away from you or closer to you, right? Or if you squeeze and hold the trigger on the object, you can carry it around, right? And you can walk up to see where you want to put it. So I can like maybe put it on the edge of the stage here, right? Just like that. And you're going to see this is kind of hanging off the edge of the stage. Now that's not, if this was a real world, that would be on the floor right now. It's just going to fall, right? So what you can do is when it's hanging off like that, if you go into your world editor, you'll see all the items in the world on the left-hand side, and you look for the item where it says laser pointer, right? Next to that will be a cogwheel, and if you press on that cogwheel, you're going to see a panel open up with all these numbers on it. There'll be numbers for position, there'll be numbers for rotation, there'll be numbers for scale, things like that, right? And what you want to do is you want to experiment with this, right? You're going to notice, like, say in the position, say the X is 20, right? And let's say we change it to 19. And as soon as we, we hit enter to accept the changes, right? What's going to happen is the pointer is going to jump over to here, right? And you think, okay, so anytime I lower that number down, right, on the X value, that's going to move any object that I put in the space in that direction, right? That must mean that if I increase the number, it's going to move in that direction toward that wall, right? And because that's the X, that means if I do it on the Z, it's going to move it either away from the stage or closer to it, right? And that means the next item that I place is going to have easier time moving it around, right? And always on the Y, it's going to move the object up or down, right? And I know that little keyboard they give us to, type this stuff in, it can be a lot to peck these numbers out, right? You know this just from texting your friends, right? It can take a while to type on this thing. But you know what? It's like when you're playing a video game, the first time you get it, the first week or so, you're just thinking about the controllers, right? You're like, how do I move again, right? And you're paying attention to that. But after about a week of playing it, you're not thinking about that stuff anymore. You're thinking about how to save the world. You're thinking about how to crush your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday, right? And this stuff gets easier and easier the more you do it. All right, now we are going to be taking your questions now. So I'm going to make a raise hand button appear on your lower right, as if by magic, right? Let's see here. There it goes. Okay, cool. And if you press that raise hand button on the lower right, I'm going to see your name appear on my list, and I get to feel like a radio announcer. I get to call on you and tell you you're on the air. But while we wait for that to fill up, so if you have any questions or comments, just press that raise hand button. If you're on Twitter and you want to follow us, you can find us at Ravenhole @ Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it is actually two. All right, we have Rick Ember. Let's see here. You're on the air. What's going on?
Oh, I just have a question. I'm seeing
What's
a
that?
little bit of flicker in the text up there behind you.
Yes. That can
Is
happen
that-
occasionally, depending on your display settings. But occasionally, I've actually noticed, throughout this, I think Altspace may be having some server issues right now. That might be a part of it too. Because as I turned my head, I saw like everything got chopped, and I thought I was going to crash, but I made it through. So it was like kind of choppy. That can happen from time to time. But if it's if it's like super blurry and makes it hard to read, you can move closer to it. That'll make it get clearer. But another thing you can do is you can change your your display settings by going in your main menu and then go into settings and going to display. You're going to notice they have anti-aliasing, and there'll be an in-world render scale, and you can change those numbers around to make the graphics perform better and find a way that's clearer for you. All right, I don't see anybody else on the list here. So if there are no more questions, and if you think of them, we are going to be taking them at the Ravenhole Flight Academy. We'll teach you guys to fly. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to push this button here, this red Talon call button, and this is going to call in one of our Talon hovercrafts. These are ships that we have available for you guys to fly at the Ravenhole Flight Academy. And so you're going to see one fly down the block here, and it's going to go up over those trees, and it's going to come down in the yard back there. But if you've learned anything here today at all, please share it with those who come in contact with. So if you're in a campfire and somebody says, my face is on fire, I'm on an Oculus Go, and it won't stop overheating, tell them about the fan, tell them about Go Time, tell them about our event page and how they can get some of this stuff and improve their experience. And by sharing that information, that's kind of how we keep this thing going. Right now, if you direct your attention out the window here, you're going to see one fly by. I'm going to press this button, and you guys watch what happens.
Ravenhole Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Here we go. There it is. All right, now if you join me out the back here, it's going to land in the backyard area, and it's going to take us out to the Flight Academy, and we're going to, go there and learn how to fly. But if you already know how to fly, you can come and ask questions, or even just look around. Because, as I said, that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go, and give you some idea of what these devices are capable of. All right, here we go. Landing now. It's going to put out a portal, and we step into that blue light there. And
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhole Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right, everybody. I'll see you at the Academy. Thanks for coming. You've been a great audience, and I'll see you next time.